So you mentioned about now, few years before, whatever they bought, they are selling it for, if they bought it for two million, they are selling for 8 million.
Yeah.
That's how do we negotiate?
Well, you need to figure out what you're trying to negotiate. Some people, I'm finding out, they keep trying to reduce the price, but they don't know why. Well, how do you know it's not worth $8 million? Because to the seller, it is worth what it's worth. Remember, sellers always think their property is up here. Buyers always think the property is down here. So that's just the way it is. It could be a mobile home. Somebody thinks it's worth so much more, and I did so much to it. Yeah, so you need to figure out what's going to work. So if you're buying something that's worth $8 million, and we're working backwards, and we're using a cap rate, let's say, hey, look, my buyer needs to have 7%, or whatever that is. That's not happening. Is there any room to negotiate? So if you approach it from a logical standpoint, that negotiation, the offer almost makes itself, right? You don't have to work too hard because, hey, I can't pay that much because we're not making any money. If you approach it from that point, it's easier. It's just
the question is actually, 2 years before they listed the property for $2 million.
Yeah.
And it didn't sell.
Mm-hmm.
The same property now they are listing for a higher price.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the psychology? What they're trying to gain, or
well, trying to gain profit. You're not really worried about psychology. You're worried about what do you and your buyer need to negotiate that deal for. You know what I mean? Don't look into, I will tell you this, I work with a lot of people that always ask me, well, how much did he pay for it? How much did he pay for it? Well, who cares? It doesn't matter. How much am I going to pay for it? That's what I'm interested in. Are we going to make money? End of the day, is my net income going up? Then that's all that matters. Because what if somebody bought a beach house for 100 grand, it's worth $1 million and I'm going to pay 300 grand? Well, that's fine. So it's what's it worth to you, right? That we're an income-driven marketplace. That's all we buy this stuff for. This is investment property. There's no reason to pay for a 20-unit building unless you're looking at cash coming in every month. So.
And what about the mobile homes?
Mobile home park?
Yeah, park.
Mobile home park was not on the list, but I'm going to cover it anyway. Mobile home park.
But that's considered as a multi-family, or what is that?
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll give it to you. All right. That's fine. I'll answer the question. So when you're buying a mobile home park, tougher to finance. That's the reason why I personally not too crazy about them. About 65%. Sometimes you get lucky, 70% financing. Mobile home parks, basically that individual is responsible for everything. You're renting the land to them. See what I mean? So it's easier to manage. So if you have a mobile home park, 10 mobile homes, it's probably much easier to manage than the property. Because if something breaks inside their house, they're not calling you, they're taking care of it themselves. So you can leverage that a little more. The problem with that is, remember, these things are going up because money and cash is easy right now. Your mobile home park is not going to go through the roof because it's very difficult to get financing like that. On a mobile home park, almost always, I'm sure they get offers of owner financing. Almost always, because banks don't even like lending on them. Banks are actually tightening up on hotels, by the way. I don't know if any of you guys work with hotels. They're tightening up on hotels. So it depends on what it is. The biggest misnomer I've seen here is this entire marketplace is really dependent on the financing, right? If I can't get the money to pay $1 million for your property, it's not likely I'm sitting on $1 million cash. So if I can get that money, and again, I kind of went over it as the rates go up, if I can get that money, it's okay, it's easy. As financing gets tougher, that property is not very attractive to me. Now people say, well, if they're cash flowing every month, why do they have to sell? Good argument. But, you guys heard of syndications? Anybody? No? Okay. So, let's just, I'm not going to even get into that, but let's just suppose you bought a property and your plan was to sell in 3, 5, 6 years, whatever it is. Let's just say 5 years for simple math. You bought today's rates, today's financing, today's deals, 5 years from now, well, nobody knows what the rates are going to be. Nobody knows what the marketplace is going to be. You really don't even know what the property is going to look like. You have to hope those conditions improve or stay the same. Now, if financing becomes a little tougher, a lot of people aren't going to be buying this stuff, right? Because how are they going to pay for it? So naturally, how do you become more competitive when you are selling your home or your whatever it is? You reduce the price, right? Now the problem is, and I'm going to explain this two different ways. If you're selling your house and nobody's buying your house at $300,000, you figure, you know what, I'm going to drop my house 10 grand. Well, now no one's buying my house for 10 grand less. You find out your neighbor's selling his house for $275 and he sells it. Now you're almost forced to sell your house because everybody else is starting to sell their house in the 270s, right? The market is bringing down my house. What am I going to do? Am I going to sit on this thing for a couple more months, hope to God I get the offer I want, or am I going to just move? Well, so let's say refinance is not available to you. Because remember, when you're buying, this is a tricky thing with mortgages. When you're buying a house, you're getting FHA 5% down, you're getting terms to get in there. I don't know if they'll let you do a refi 5% all the time. It just depends, right? They want to get you into the deal. So you have to always look at how am I getting out of this thing? And financing, I think, is the only, I guess, the key indicator for is the market going to go up or down, or that's really what you want to focus on. So it's a little bit different. In an apartment, if you're making 10, 15 grand a month, you really have to sell? Probably not. But if somebody lives somewhere, well, hey, I'm moving, my kids are going to school, you're kind of obligated. You're like, I got to pick up, I got to leave. All right, fine. Just take 10 grand off, let's go. You can own an apartment building and live in Mississippi somewhere. It doesn't really matter when it sells, right? It could sell next year. Okay, fine. That's fine. Just close it up when you close it up. So that's the difference. You're kind of working in a marketplace that's a little bit different. So so that was the kind of the gist. I've given you guys all that good stuff. I think I've covered everything. I do want to make sure nobody has any questions because your faces look like you have questions. You look like you're into it, but I don't know. How are we doing?
Good.
Okay, good.